Hello, everybody. Welcome to Vida Tennis, the podcast for those of us who eat, sleep, breathe tennis. Today, we welcome the amazing Meredith Geiger Walton. Meredith is the director of rackets at Austin Country Club. She has an incredible background leading rackets programs for 26 years at places like the Clubs of Kingwood, the College of William and Mary, St. Stephen's Tennis Academy, and USTA Player Development, to name a few. She's a true superstar rackets professional who has really done it all. And her accolades range from being inducted to 2 Halls of Fame to USPTA National Touring Coach of the Year. Oh, and she played on the tour and was an NCAA All-American at Arizona State University. Need I say more? Welcome, Meredith, to Vida Tennis. How are you today?
Great. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me on.
Of course. I'm so glad we connected. I was telling you, I was looking at your bio and the things that you have done. And I was like, oh my gosh, she really has done it all in her career. You've been involved with so many different things. So I can't wait to dive deep into all the different things that you have done. But I always like to start with the beginning. Tell us a little bit about how you realized that you wanted to have a career in the tennis industry. Did you always have vision or did you kind of evolve into it?
Definitely evolved into it. I think, like many of us who have chosen a teaching and coaching career, kind of fell into it. It seems second nature to us when we grow up as tennis players, and that's a huge part of our identity. And
Yeah.
then post college, you're kind of figuring out what am I going to do next? Who am I? And it's difficult to leave behind, I think, that identity that you've had for so long as a player. So coaching, teaching kind of lends itself naturally to go into it. And I think once you get into it, as long as you're passionate about the sport, it's hard to leave. So that's, I guess, a good thing. I think coaching and teaching is very, very rewarding from the aspect of not only just serving others and helping other people grow, but the relationships that you create, the networking that happens. I think that when I look back, not having I think the career chose me as opposed to me chose the career. But I definitely feel it's very fitting for who I am and what I like to do. And I do feel like my life is very fulfilled because of relationships through tennis.
Did you go from basically graduating from college right into coaching or did you have a different career at one point?
So I played on the pro tour after graduating college because I just felt like, hey, I need to get this out of my system. I need to find out how good I can be, how far I can take this. And also, it's a great excuse to travel the world
Yeah.
and be able to, keep a tennis racket in your hand and just go all over the world and have these experiences. But after a while, which is a grind on the tour, you're thinking, okay, well, I need to probably get a real job and
Yeah.
figure out how to keep some money in the bank. So I actually went right into working for the USTA. And again, just not really having had a true job before, but
Mhm.
it obviously allowed me to go right into a job that I already had knowledge and experience. But I will say it was a huge transition to being in an office. And I think the first 6 months I was in the office, I thought something was wrong with me because I hadn't been in indoor lighting, air conditioning. I hadn't been sitting that long. And as much as I loved being able to work for the USTA and learn a lot about that organization and network, I just knew I wasn't meant to be indoors or in an office. So I jumped at the opportunity to get into coaching. One of my more, who at the time was coaching at the University of Texas, and he had recommended that I look at St. Stephen's Tennis Academy, which didn't really know much about it. I had actually grown up in an Episcopalian private school in Oklahoma City. So St. Stephen's was a very similar environment. So I liked that idea of it. But the fact that it had a tennis academy attached to it kind of made it feel like almost like a small college environment. So I kind of jumped at that opportunity and moved to Austin to begin my coaching career that eventually just led to more opportunities and where I am today.
And was that boys and girls?
Yes, boys and girls. And again, working with juniors, I mean, so rewarding because again, you reflect back on your experience as a junior player and the opportunities you had and the travel. So it was fun for me to now be in that role, to help them grow and achieve their goals and be on a pathway to play college tennis. So it was a really good start to my coaching career to get involved with juniors and kind of help them on their path that, similar to the path that I got to be on. Very rewarding. And then I still kind of had an idea that I wanted to coach college. I had an incredibly impactful experience playing for Arizona State. I chose to go there because of the coach, Sheila McInerney, who just recently in the last year retired after her 40th year, which is
Incredible.
unheard of. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be the kind of coach she was in my life, and wanted to have the opportunity to coach women's tennis collegiately, and plus just being at a university, I love college athletics, the whole environment. So I didn't, wanted to feel like, again, this is something that I need to be able to do. And I got the opportunity to coach with Jeff Moore at the University of Texas as his assistant for a couple of years. And that then again just kind of helped jumpstart me into a college coaching career path for a while. And yeah, I mean, I've just kind of never looked back as far as never questioning not coaching, never questioning not keeping a tennis racket in my hand and having a court as my office.
That's so good to hear. And I know that that seems or may seem like forever ago now that you've had so many different positions and you're so experienced now. But do you remember back in the day, what were some of the things that maybe were challenges for you or that maybe were a shock to the system because you came from being a player to now you're the person in charge. Now you have to look out for players and try to teach them, try to discipline them.
I mean, I definitely feel like you have to learn how to wear many hats. So when you're a player for so long and it's all about you, that is a difficult transition to where now it's no longer about you and it's about the others. I do feel grateful that I had such impactful experiences, both as a junior player through my coach and the environment. My coach was Bill Rolfe in Oklahoma City, and he had a tremendous tennis academy. So I had a great upbringing in junior tennis as far as my experience and exposure. So I was able to draw upon that a lot and think about all the coaches I had in my junior career and even in college and the sacrifices they made and the impact they made on me. So I thought, well, gosh, those are great role models for me to be able to use. So now I know and not try to impose, my beliefs, my style on any one player. Learning how to watch someone come to fruition on their own and guide them, but let it be their path, and not be, too like not. I had to learn how to not to overcoach and overteach, and to try to find a balance, not necessarily about what I said, but when I said it. So I mean, it really is an art to master, and it takes years of experience. Um,
Hmm.
and some of it's trial and error on some players,
Yeah.
and even coaching collegiately, so different than coaching juniors. So for sure, I was naive at times, for sure, and or my expectations were unrealistic. So it's a lot of. I really felt like I needed to be in a position to learn from my students, as opposed to me always teaching them. So to kind of learning how to be a player is that it truly becomes an investment in each other, and
Mhm.
you both learn from each other. It's not a one way, it's very much two way.
None of us are perfect when we come into coaching. And some of us try to emulate a coach that maybe we had growing up, or like you were saying, our own beliefs, our own way of approaching things. And that doesn't work for everybody. You have to really like listen to the player, what clicks with them, and just try to understand them as a person because everyone gets motivated a little bit differently, I feel like. And that can be tough with a team of 12 players.
Yes, yeah, and I did not have any female coaches until I got to college. So again, then thinking about how Sheila impacted my life as a female coach, again, I think that probably really inspired me to say, okay, now I get a chance to be in this role. So it was very empowering, and I guess it felt very mission like to now be able to be that female in other players' lives too. And even too, just most male players too don't get to experience a female coach. And I really enjoyed that aspect as well, because there's, coaching shouldn't be gender biased at all by any means.
Right.
And I did develop my style, I think, through time and experience. I tend to lend myself way more to a tactical approach in my teaching coaching than I do technical. And again, I think Jeff Moore was a great mentor because he was much more of a tactical coach, and it seemed to resonate with me that my philosophy was kind of more about, I'm going to teach you how to play and then teach you how to hit second. So I like really teaching the full court game, how to use the whole court, understand the tactics. But as you understand the tactics too, you also have to get to know what your player naturally does well, what they like to do, what kind of would fit their brain type, their personality type, so to make sure you're not forcing them to play a style that is not going to be replicated easily. So it definitely takes time, but I think I feel very fortunate that I've had so many different experiences as far as venues and platforms, whether it's working with high performance juniors, working with college. I've been in the club industry a while, and I have grown so much as a coach and a teacher because of having such variety of platforms. The beauty is that my vehicle is through tennis to impact people's lives, and the fact that I've been able to do it in many different venues has really helped me grow a lot as a coach and a teacher, to where I feel like I'm still learning and growing and want to. And I think that's why it's so hard to not be in this industry, to not, I don't think I would know what to do if I wasn't on a tennis court and I wasn't coaching.
So you went from playing on the tour to working with juniors, player development, then you were in academy, and then you went to college. So you were all in kind of like a high performance type of
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
Was it a complete shock to you once you transitioned to a country club, now working with rec players, or how was that experience for you?
Yes, it was. I went on to coach at the College of William Mary, which great experience because one, I don't think I would have appreciated that part of the country, being in Williamsburg, Virginia, had I not coached there, having been mainly more towards the West. That was also, I will tell you, the biggest challenge as a family. At the time, my boys were 1 and 3 years old. So moving from Austin, Texas to Williamsburg, Virginia, not only just a culture shock, but totally different part of the country, further away from family. And then being a head coach and a mom presented a lot of different challenges, which you just jump in and do. You don't know how you're going to do it. You just jump in and do it. But again, I can reflect back and think, I'm so glad I did, because not only you learn from those experiences and grow, but I can also use those experiences to help really this industry is very worthy of getting more female coaches. And, we need to do it, whether it's college, juniors, club. So I feel like I'm in a position because of all these experiences to be able to influence and hopefully inspire more women to choose this industry and find a career path within it. But definitely, what's funny about this is it was a job change for my husband that caused us to leave William and Mary and go to Houston. And I didn't really know at the time. I'm like, well, I can always teach tennis for sure, right? So maybe I'll take a break from college coaching. And I did go into the club industry, and that was in Kingwood. And my husband was the one that laughed. He said, "Oh my gosh, you're going to hate country club tennis." He's like, "This is not your lane." And I'm like, "Well, why? I don't know. I'm just going to go teach tennis. Like, what's the big deal?" Well, yes, it was a shock because I was so geared towards high performance, and especially working with D1 college players. You're always pushing all the time. But I fell in love with it. It brought out a different side of me, again, that I hadn't experienced yet, because when you're focused on high performance players, there's so much is investing in terms of their mental game, their emotional, and it's much more coaching than teaching is what I experienced. And
Well
that
put.
coach and that coaching is even, not even just tennis, right? It's life and everything like that. So I felt like what I got to experience in the club industry was much more teaching. It gave me an opportunity to say, wait a minute, okay, I got to dial this back in a good way and really focus more on the teaching aspect. And actually, maybe where I would push people is to push them to actually have goals, that maybe they didn't have goals, never thought about a path, never thought about a journey, never really really, honed in on their why. And so I felt the club kind of environment gave me a greater sense of being able to really focus on. I think my favorite part about teaching in the club is that the why feels so present every day, because for the most part, people who play recreational tennis, the time on the court is their joy time, is their vacation time, their fun. That's where you get to kind of escape a little bit. So who comes to the court pissed off? No one. They come
Yeah.
excited, happy, eager, right? And so, like,
Mhm.
why not be in that environment where you're in an environment where people are always coming to you like eager to learn and excited to
Yes.
play. And that's a lot of positive energy to be around.
Yeah.
Sometimes working in high performance, you didn't know what you were going to get. I mean, if your college player just broke up with her boyfriend, you're going to get a lot more than just trying to work on her tennis game. And then also, too, I think just the fact that you can work in the club environment, you can work with anyone and everyone as far as
Mhm.
age, skill level. My favorite part is introducing tennis to someone who had never played, but later in life picked it up. And so to be able to still promote that message that it is a lifetime sport, and you can learn it at any age and still find joy. And then I think also too that there's a lot of camaraderie that I feel like doesn't get recognized in the club industry. Of energy, like my mental health is fabulous because of that.
Mm.
In the teaching or coaching industry is too time constraining. It's difficult to manage and balance a family life and being a mom too. I think the club environment can become very accepting of more women because you can create your schedule, you can make that work, you can find a balance. I mean, I don't travel, which is nice versus when coaching college, I was gone all the time. And so
Right.
I do believe it's very conducive for women to be able to have a career and still find a balance.
Did you ever see being a female coach as a disadvantage at any point? Do you see it as an advantage? Did you even care? What was your whole relationship with that?
Always been in environments where, I mean, I didn't have many counterparts for
Yeah.
sure. So I saw that as an advantage. I really did. The University of Texas was great about if for all of their women's sports, if it was a male head coach, it had to be a female assistant. So they're always good about making sure their women's sports had at least one female coach with the team. Not every university does that for women's sports. In the club industry, again, I don't have a lot of counterparts. So I'm working mainly with males. Like I said, my only female coach I ever got was in college. And, but I personally looked at it as an advantage, right? Let's use that as an opportunity to help influence and inspire because I know what coaches meant in my life. And so I thought, well, regardless, male, female, just being a coach and how you impact, people's lives and the relationships that are formed because of that. I mean, I think about like my junior coach is still in my life, was at my wedding, my college coach, my wedding. I mean, and that's, why I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be that kind of person in other people's lives. And so I think it just, you know, that part, what a coach is and what it means and what you can and how you can impact, that needs to be way more marketed and recognized because male or female, I think a lot of females would choose to be in that role.
Absolutely. I think that's something that comes natural to women. If someone was to say like female coaches are better, I don't think that female coaches are better. I think just everyone has the capacity to be great, and it's up to every individual to develop themselves and be the best version that they can be of themselves. So I don't think that really comes down to being male or female, but we just don't have a lot of female coaches, and by not having that, we're excluding almost half of the population. So like the talent pool that we're missing out on is huge in the coaching industry. So I like how you think about it because I don't think I ever really give it much thought until I've had instances later in my career where it was like blatantly discriminatory. But when I first started, it wasn't really a thought in my mind. Like I was just like, this is what I want to do. I enjoy doing this and I pursued it and I'm glad I've stayed with it. Have you had any like iffy situations or you just kind of like doesn't even bother you?
I mean, definitely my personality is a type where it doesn't bother me. And again, because I just look at, who I have chosen to be as a professional and the industry I've chosen, and nothing's going to stop me from doing that. All I need is a tennis racket in my hand and a tennis court. So no matter where I am, or the environment I'm in, I'm going to be able to serve my purpose. So I felt, I do feel like I've been able to manage the environments I'm in, regardless of not having a lot of counterparts or a lot of role models. So I give credit to my prior coaches growing up and juniors and college, just that it influenced me more as what it meant to be a coach and what a coach can be in someone's life. But I do feel like, just like anything, we're influenced by who we're around. So if we do see more females in these roles, there's no doubt we have the opportunity to influence others and
Mhm.
hopefully inspire someone younger to say, wow, I mean, that's a cool career. I want to do that.
Yes.
So, I mean, I do feel like, we're maybe a little bit behind in terms of just the marketing of it, because I know there's a lot of great female coaches out there, whether it's college, juniors, club, um, just, I know there's a lot of great females out there, but I just don't feel like we've maybe given a big enough platform to be recognized and notice what they're doing and how they can be better marketed so they are influencing others and looking at it as, hey, this is a true career. This is not just a job. It's not just something like, oh, I'm just doing this just because I don't know what else to do. It truly is a career, and it's a rewarding lifelong career, because I look back and I think about all the people in my life are from tennis. I mean, just
Mhm.
about. But I mean, those connections. You can go
Yeah,
anywhere in the world and be connected and know someone because of tennis. I mean, there's
absolutely.
not many professions, careers you can say you can do that. So I just feel like how we market the career path is essential, and
Mhm.
just having more faces, more role models being visible so we can create that influence and inspire others.
Well said. And looking at your accolades, is there one that has special meaning to you?
Well, since I grew up in Oklahoma, I think being able to be inducted in the Oklahoma Tennis Hall of Fame was very special, because those are my roots, where tennis started for me, and just all the great memories and friendships that were formed. So that one's really, really special. Missouri Valley Tennis Hall of Fame, because that was a section that I competed in. Um, so those were special. And I think, again, just more that, I think what means the most to me is just the fact that I'm so connected with so many of my former players, and I get wedding invites, baby shower announcements, you know, and, or, some of my former players are now coaches themselves. I mean, that's very
Amazing.
rewarding too. Yeah. So that, I think, is really what continues to drive me, is knowing just the relationships that you form and the impact that you have and all those connections.
That's awesome. And what about your director role? Is that something that you're passionate about as well?
There's aspects of it I do enjoy. And I think that, having been a collegiate player and knowing what is a team approach, it resonates with me, and I'd love to be. And then education. I do believe that being in this position allows me now, an opportunity to educate GMs, other club directors. I mean, just, and educate people in the club industry, even HR, what tennis means to the people in a club environment, and how tennis, and really all the racket sports, pickleball too. I'm very, very, very heavily involved in pickleball as well, but just how racket sports is more than just an amenity in the club environment.
Mhm.
The impact that it has, in all these players' lives and the members. And I just find that it's necessary that if you're going to be in a role to oversee operations, a big part of your role is to educate the other management, the other people involved in running a club. What does it take to run a successful racket sports program? What does it mean, and how it can be way more relevant? Because private clubs will center more around golf or food and beverage, whatever. And I think it's even more imperative for tennis specifically, to um, really make a bigger presence within the club industry. So not only it stays relevant, and it joins forces with the other racket sports, there's no doubt we can all get along and all exist in one venue. but to really educate other management people within the club industry how much impact and a necessity racket sports are, how relevant they are, and that they need a seat at the table just like golf and F&B do.
Absolutely. And do you have a full pickleball program? Do you have separate courts?
So I was lucky to get introduced, and I love telling the story because when I was in Kingwood at Kingwood Country Club, and this was about 2018, an older couple, came to me and said, "Hey, we want to get pickleball going here." I'm like, "Okay, great. What's pickleball?" Didn't really know much about it because he only grew up in tennis. And then it's like, "Well, here, let's show you." They were probably like in their late 70s at the time, John and Jackie, and so they introduced me to pickleball. Well, for a year and a half, we taped every Sunday and got people introduced to pickleball and started playing. Seeing where the trend was going, the club decided to invest and put in 6 permanent pickleball courts. And so from there, then it took off and it was nonstop pickleball. So then I got certified to teach it. And it was so much fun. I mean, all of a sudden, my boys were out there playing pickleball. I mean, every family member, so just to see the very organic interaction happen on the pickleball court because anyone and everyone can play and to see people connect. And so to me, I saw it as a beautiful way to coexist because number one, you're getting people out being active. They're on a tennis court, pickleball court, one and the same in terms of, hey, they're out there being active, they're engaging, they're connecting. So I saw it as a necessity and just marry the two, have them both coexist.
Of
Um,
course, they're spending time at your club in your
yes,
program.
exactly. The engagement piece is a
Right.
no-brainer. And for a lot of clubs, it's to me, it's the way you bridge the gap between golf and tennis because sometimes they can be so separate. And so it's a good way to engage people that wouldn't otherwise come to tennis or wouldn't otherwise try golf, but they can both try pickleball. And so from an engagement season, from a the number of touches you'll get from a member through pickleball, I think it's a no-brainer for clubs, and there's no reason to not coexist. Now at Austin Country Club, we don't have permanent pickleball courts; we have lines on the tennis courts, and because we've exceeded the participation beyond our lines, I tape. So twice a week, I'm out there taping additional courts just to manage the demand. So it's they have plans to do permanent pickleball courts. It's just a matter of time for the construction, but I see it as a necessity. I mean, just this past Sunday, I ran an event for a member's 50th birthday party, and we had over 100 people playing pickleball.
Oh my goodness.
Because pickleball is kind of the activity where it can be everyone, it can connect everyone and everyone together. And it doesn't matter whether you've played or not, you have prior racket experience, everyone can play it. So I've really embraced it. I love it. It's fun. I started competing myself. So I've had some fun with that is to go compete. So I feel like it's necessary if you're going to be in this industry as a teacher coach, just embrace it, become a racket sport professional and find ways to incorporate all the racket sports if you can.
I think if you can, also if you're interested. I don't like forcing it on anybody. Like if you don't
Mhm.
like pickleball, you don't like pickleball. It's fine. Like you don't have to do it. So to me, is like I just happen to like sports. Like I'll
Yeah,
play anything. I'll go boxing. I'll go paddleboarding, whatever. I just like to be active. Tennis just happens to be like my main passion,
right.
right? So I just don't subscribe to that whole thing of like, oh, you have to do them all because I don't think that you necessarily have to do it. Like if you really like tennis, I think you can stay in your lane, but it definitely creates more opportunities, right, for you, obviously,
Mhm.
because now you've expanded your net. You've expanded your skill set too when you now can play another sport, teach another sport,
Right.
and offer programming in that, right? But man, I'm starting to believe that pickleball might be bigger in Texas than it is in Florida. That's incredible. 100 people and you don't even have courts. That's insane.
I think what you're finding where you can get the large numbers is for events. I mean, for any reason, whether it's a corporate outing, team building, birthday, bridal shower, people are just using pickleball as the activity to be able to have an event and bring people together. So a lot of these venues are popping up because of more of that entertainment side of it. And it's very, very social. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, tennis is my number one and my passion, and I absolutely love it. But if people want to play pickleball, I'm going to give them every opportunity to play it. and there's the opportunity for growth. I've played padel as well, and that is so much fun.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get more involved with that. And I just, I see that, our industry has rebranded. And so, all the more reason just to say, okay, well, if you're somewhere where racket sports are offered, just embrace them and try them all. And because then it also allows you to, connect with more people. You find out, well, yeah, a tennis player is not super into pickleball, but maybe they're interested in padel, or someone that doesn't do tennis or pickleball, but would try padel. I mean, I think it lends itself for the opportunity for more engagement, more connection, no matter what the court looks like. But I do feel like what we the bigger picture is we just need to look at the opportunity to get more people active, and the engagement and the connection, the relationships, all that just kind of happens to naturally, organically happen, whether it's a tennis court, padel court, or pickleball court.
Absolutely. For facilities, a lot of times it's a no-brainer to add another sport. I think for pros, that like the main conversation I keep getting into, not necessarily on the podcast, but just maybe offline, is everybody just asking me, well, how do you monetize that? Because it's not like tennis where it's lesson based. It's more like
Right.
full time, maybe even clinics, but not nearly as many as you would do in tennis, right? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, should we
Uh,
even be worried about monetizing it?
I mean, I do think it depends on where you're at. And I agree with you that more of your lesson takers, clinic participation, is that revenue is going to come from tennis, not from pickleball as much. And in my experience, where I'm able to generate revenue from pickleball is more in the group experience, group play, organized, and from events, from opportunities to host an event where pickleball is the main activity. Because I do feel like pickleball is more about the group experience than it is about the individual pathway. And so I don't have habitual lesson takers for pickleball.
No,
Uh, and I think clinics can kind of, it's a game where once you understand how to play, you just go play.
right.
Um,
Beauty
so
of
if you have a true desire to compete, okay, yeah, then that's when you're going to invest a little bit more in some lessons. But other than that, it's really more of a play to learn sport. So I tell anyone, hey, I'll teach you how to play in 10 minutes and go play. So it doesn't lend itself for a huge revenue stream. Depends on if you have the courts, then how you market those courts, and then the group experience creating. I do find that groups will go play on their own, but when it's organized group play to where they can just show up and they're told what to do, where to go, that has been
mm,
more successful, and to making it more of a shared experience.
round robin.
And then yeah. Move up, move down, round robin, switch partners, play 3 games, play with every partner on the court, all sorts of different formats. Because at the end of the day, it's about that social experience. My favorite thing is when members meet for the first time on the pickleball court and they've both been members for 20 years, but never knew each other. So those are the kind of things I think that the group experience is more valuable than trying to create a ton of pickleball programming. I think it's different for an indoor facility. We have a lot of these indoor facilities popping up, pickleball only, but they have to. I mean, that means you got to have court time that's booked 24/7 to make money. That's a totally different kind of business model.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite format that you like?
We kind of do kings, queens, the court, but then like you move up and you switch partners. I like to do that because I want people feeling like the versatility and like growing their game by playing with other people, and then just also having that social interaction. So I like it when they move, but then switch partners. You have to find a good balance between competition and camaraderie. You want both to coexist without it being overly competitive and overly social.
That's awesome. What about any other changes besides adding different racket sports? Are there any changes or innovations that you like or that perhaps you would like to see more of in the tennis industry?
I do think that just the introduction to kind of becoming a teaching pro, a coach, we need probably a lot more mentoring on that. I think that we have found that, let's say you get hired and it's like, okay, you got to go out there and teach. And there's not And it depends on where you are. Depends on where you are and what the leadership is. But I think we kind of all tend to default on what we've just known in the past or what the way we've been taught.
Yeah.
And not that there's a universal way by any means, but that we do need a lot more mentoring of kind of the progression of like, okay, well, if I am new to teaching and coaching, I mean, and I was fortunate again, like I said, I had some great mentors, even how to teach how to feed a ball, right?
Hmm.
There's an art to feeding a ball,
Oh my
you know?
gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I love borrowing and stealing from other pros, like what
Mhm.
games they play, what drills they do. And really, unless you're going to kind of conventions or whatever, you don't get that information.
Yeah.
I feel like we're a little bit stuck in our industry to where we need that information without having to go to conventions. We need that kind of shared platform so we can all borrow and steal from it, even if we don't know each other. But it's just a way for us to grow as an industry and grow as teaching pros, especially if a pro has been at the same place for 10 years. I mean, that pro wants to feel like there's new information they can gain even if they don't, are able to attend conventions or network a whole lot. I just feel like that's where we need to probably invest in ways and time that we can do a lot more mentoring, a lot more collaborative type of interaction, even if it's not in person.
Hmm.
I mean, even a college player coming into the industry, they might not know how to teach. They know
Right.
how to play. I mean, I didn't, no one taught me how to teach.
Yeah.
You just kind of figure out as you go. And like I said, I mean, it's taken me years of experience in different venues to kind of develop. And I did, but I still am subject to my students. I mean, I'm still going to change my teaching or coaching according to my students' needs or how they learn. So I feel like there's a lot of that. I mean, even just understanding the biomechanics of teaching, how the biomechanics of hitting a forehand or backhand. So I don't think a lot of that information is either a required, is really kind of shared enough, collaborative. I mean, I commend you for doing podcasts because at least you get information out there. You give people a chance to have a voice and share. I mean, I love listening to podcasts because, like I said, it gives me new ideas, gives me new inspiration. That's where I feel like our industry needs to invest more in that, in the shared platforms and the collaborative collection of information because we got a lot of great people out there teaching tennis and racket sports, but we just need to kind of somehow get our information more collaborated and shared.
Well said. This is why I love doing this podcast, is because I get to talk to people that do what I do, which unless I go to a conference, I never get to do.
Right. Yeah.
That obviously people that are outside of my bubble. I don't work alone
Yeah.
all the time, but people that are outside of my bubble that do things differently, that think differently, that have had a whole life in this industry. So that's my favorite part about doing
I
this.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been to conferences and I have really enjoyed going, and mostly it's not even because, oh, I learned this amazing drill or I went to this talk and it like changed my life. Like, no, it really comes down to the people I talked to and the
Right.
connections I made.
You come back inspired and
Yes.
so I guess I just want that to happen more frequently, even if it's not in person, because I do feel like a lot of times pros are inhibited financially from really being able to create their learning to further their education. And I'm going to go to the Directors Club retreat in Boca, which I'm super excited about. But it is, I mean, you have to think about the time you take off, the time that the revenue that you might be missing the time to take off. I have to get it approved. Just there's a lot of steps, which I mean, every career is going to have that. I just want it to be more accessible, even if it can't be in person. And I do feel like our industry could use social media a lot more. I will say that's one of the things that I feel personally that pickleball has done exceptionally well is they're all over social media, every outlet.
Mhm.
And you say the word pickleball and then boom, everything pops up on your social media with
Yeah.
pickleball videos. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, again, don't fight it. Don't say, oh, pickleball is doing that, whatever. Just do this. I mean, do it too. I feel like
Mhm.
our social media presence for tennis could be much bigger, much greater.
And we'll give the Directors Club a shout out since that's kind of how we got to know each other. I just joined and going to the retreat as well. Did you get to
Yeah.
go here this year, last year? last time?
No, no, this will be my first. And it was funny, again, I ended up calling Michael Jordan, who's at Dallas Country Club, on the phone randomly, right? Because I had some questions about like being within Texas, being a similar private club, member owned to Austin Country Club, whatever. Just wanted to kind of ask him, like, hey, how do you structure things, your operations, whatever. Just wanted to connect with him. Hadn't met him before. He took my phone call. And from there, I mean, I think we probably talked for about an hour because, like anything, like we share, have these common connections, and we start talking about our experiences. And then he starts telling me about the Directors Club. So to me, that's a beautiful thing, organic thing that happens. I just think that can happen more frequently, without necessarily always being in person. And I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like, again, I mean, I haven't met you in person, I haven't met Mike, but we feel connected no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's so important to not feel alone. And I think a lot of times it just comes out of fear. I think people just kind of want to keep people, I mean, people in the tennis industry in particular, directors
Mhm.
and, whatever, head pros kind of want to keep to themselves and not share out of fear of maybe losing that opportunity or what people will think or things like that. I think we can do better just sharing information, helping the newer generations that come into this industry and show them a path forward in this.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, that's where we could use, I mean, you piggyback on any tournament that's, in your vicinity, whether it's a pro tournament, right? You just piggyback on that in terms of having a presence, at those venues. If there's a tournament going on, we want to make sure that, like, hey, I mean, do you know that there's, 10 clubs within a 30-mile radius that people are playing tennis, and what programming is going on? I mean, it's just, I feel like there's just a way we can utilize what we already have with where people are playing tennis and even current existing events that have happened, and just piggyback on them to create more notice, more recognition of, hey, this industry, we wouldn't be able to have these events. These people, if we didn't have an industry of teaching pros and coaches that are invested in this as a career.
Hmm.
I would love to see a direct kind of just path to take collegiate players, all right, who said, hey, I'm done with tennis. I'm not going to play, I'm not going to further my career, play on the professional, whatever. And I would love to take them and say, hey, have you thought about a career path in teaching and coaching? Because if you've been a junior and collegiate player, you've already had all this incredible training to what it takes, right? So it's like companies will usually hire someone and then pay to get them trained. Well, you got players already trained. Now we just got to plug them in. We just got to create a funnel to plug them in. Like I would look at, okay, University of Texas, we got 20 clubs within a 30-mile radius of University of Texas. How can we take those players who say they're done with tennis, all right, and how can we plug them in to start teaching at all those clubs
Hmm.
and just jumpstart it, whether they stay long term or not, but at least introduce them to the potential career path and then where they go from there. I saw a lot of my colleagues and a lot of players jump right into college coaching, right? It's kind of a natural fit. They finish playing, oh, I'll just go be an assistant, whatever. And that's great. I mean, to me, I don't care whether it's a club, college, whatever, just as long as you stay within the sport and keep giving back. But I also found that for a lot of women that chose college coaching, when they got to a certain point in their life, they may have made a decision, this is not conducive anymore. All right, it's not going to fit. The balance is not there, whatever reason. And they quit. They stop coaching altogether. So to me, that's another opportunity to say, hey, don't quit coaching or teaching. Let's now try the club industry. All right. Maybe you don't want to do college anymore, but have you thought about club? Right.
Hmm.
Again, I mean, that situation just presented itself to me because we moved to Houston, and I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to coach college right now. All right, well, let's go teach in the club. But all of a sudden it opened up a whole different life for me. Even my boys at the time were like, Mom, you're not traveling anymore. I'm like, no, I don't have to with this job. Like, ooh, will you keep this job? We like it. Because it's
Yeah.
home. I didn't have to travel. So then again, this is conducive for me to be able to feel like I can still have my lifestyle, but not give up on a career in coaching and teaching. So
Hmm.
that's where I feel like we can help navigate that a lot more. Whether it's coming from collegiate and you don't know what you're going to do, you're not playing anymore, but you're not really sure what career field or whatever. Hey, just go teach initially. Let's get you plugged in. Or if you've been college coaching, you don't want to do that anymore. Hey, let's steer you over to the clubs.
I didn't see that either. I have a whole different story. I went into research for 4 years in science and never really even thought that this was a career, something that I could
Mhm.
do until I kind of started coaching college and realizing this is a lot more fun. I really like doing this. Can I
Yeah,
do this? And then
yeah.
finally, like it led me to where I am now. But yeah, it's been a ride, that's for sure. So before I let you go, will you share with us what has been the grand slam moment and the double bagel moment of your career so far?
Hmm. Wow, that's a very thought provoking. Well, I did meet my husband because of tennis, so that's a nice kind of how tennis has just been so impactful in my life. But as far as like performance wise, I loved my junior experience. I did get to compete, in the U.S. Open Juniors, um, and then professionally, getting to travel the world. Um, but when I look back, I mean, college tennis was just a pinnacle. I really feel like college tennis is just, I mean, the experience, of playing for your university, playing for a team. God, I'd love to be a college tennis player. And I mean, that's probably what, I mean, I think my experience there is probably what probably inspired me the most to go into coaching. Um, I feel again, I think I would say, I mean, I loved being able to, have rewarding performances as a player, and accolades. I was, but I think really my double bagel, whatever that is relationships, the connections I've made with people, and continue to connect and make. I mean, it's just that's the beautiful thing. I think that tennis has provided and will continue to provide, and that's where I want my message to be sent is, man, you can have a very very rich life full of relationships and connections because of tennis.
Mhm.
Whether you're playing it, coaching it, just being involved in it. And so I think that to me, that's my double bagel, is all the relationships and friendships, forming one right now. So
Yeah.
very
A
grateful for the
double
sport.
bagel normally is like something where things went wrong. Like
Oh,
like you
oh,
got a
double.
double bagel, like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. I guess I meant double bagel in terms of like I was winning 6-0, 6-0.
Oh, see, you're used to winning. That's the problem.
I will say I did kind of take it from that context, like, ooh, okay,
Yeah.
'cause it's hard to get a double bagel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, like
You
you
know
lost 0-0.
yeah. God, that's a good question. And I mean, I do tend to have a very positive outlook on life. So I guess I really don't feel like I've had such losses because tennis teaches you to persevere. Tennis teaches you to go win the back draw, win the third set, grind it out.
Right.
So I mean, I teaches so much about life, and that's the beauty of being a coach is you can teach a lot of those life lessons. So I think my outlook tends to be more of like, hey, it's overcoming challenges, so you don't perceive them as a double bagel. You perceive them more as like, hey, opportunity to overcome it and dig deep. I mean, think about it, I'm sure when you and I played junior tennis, I mean, it was more about who grinded through the consolation, the backdraw was really more a testament of character and perseverance.
Yeah. Well, now kids won't even play in the back draw, I feel like.
I know, and I think that's probably one aspect of our sport that hasn't been helpful with junior tennis is taking away the consolation of full feet in a back draw because it really does teach a lot of resilience and perseverance when you have to come back from a loss. I mean, I do. I contribute a lot of the way we played junior tennis and having to win 2 out of 3 sets and having to get through a back draw. And I know we had to kind of make sometimes tennis a little bit more convenient, but man, did we learn a lot of life lessons and build a lot of character because of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Meredith. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. And please stay in touch. I look up to you and all the things that you have done. Totally incredible career.
Vice versa, vice versa. So I really appreciate you doing this. I mean, I think it's an incredible platform to be able to get information and share and connect people. So we appreciate you doing this podcast.
Thank you so much.